Welcome, thanks for stopping by. It's time to learn with our friend Clive. So grab your brush, have a great time.
Hello and welcome back to the studio for another great lesson here in Wales as I paint away the stress of everyday life. So I've got my standard 15 by 12 canvas panel. I've given it a quick coat of gesso. I've taken the liberty of just doing a quick outline, and all the colours you're going to need are coming up the screen there, along with my standard selection of brushes. I'm only using 3 today. So without further ado, as I talk about that, let's have a look at the palette. As you can see, I've just got a limited palette today, and I'm using 3 brushes. I'm using a 1-inch short flat, a little detail brush, and a number 4 filbert. That's it. So without further ado, let's get some paint onto this canvas. Now I'm using my medium mix flow improver there, that's that one, and that helps underbinding a paint, because as you know, if you've painted with me before, you don't over thin your paints more than 45% or you're going to have problems. I'm also going to use a little bit of liquid clear, and that's just to help the flowability of paint as well. Now I'm looking at the background. First of all, I'm going to go straight into some titanium white. There we go, and I'm just going to place that on. Now this might play havoc with my camera for the moment, but we'll get there slowly. And the reason I'm doing this particular painting today is because I've got a couple of younger viewers now, subscribers on the channel, and they've asked for some ladies ballet dancing, and I thought, well, let's see if I can do that for you. And but I mean, this is a good way of practicing some blending techniques. It's a quite easy, simple painting as well. If you follow along with my processes, you'll see that you should be able to get the same type of effect. So I'm using the paint with a reasonable thickness, but it's not over thinned. But again, using the medium mix, then I can thin it down as much as I want. Really, it shouldn't matter. Now I'm just placing that on. I've got a mister bottle here. I broke my little one, so I've got a big one. So I'm just going to mist down the canvas like that. Why do I do that? Well, for the people that don't know, is it helps the paint. It stops the paint from drying out too quick. And by adding a bit of moisture, because acrylic paint dries by evaporation like everything else, but being water based, then the paint is going to evaporate, or the moisture is going to evaporate a lot quicker. Why have I picked up a bit of black there? It doesn't matter, let's just put that in there. Just picked up a little bit of black on the tip of my brush by mistake. That's what happens when you put your paints too close to each other. But that doesn't matter. We can't make mistakes with acrylics because we can recover from them. And as Bob Ross used to say, these are sometimes a little happy little accidents. So just continuing to put a little bit of acrylic paint on. I'm using paint a little bit thicker today. I normally use very thin layers of paint, but today I'm using paint just that little bit thicker, and again misting that down just to stop the water from evaporating out of the paint, because we need to blend. So let's get a little bit of raw sienna. I'm not washing that brush, I'm just putting some raw sienna straight onto that brush like that. And now taking a little bit off on the kitchen roll that I've got below me, and now let's try and just lightly, very lightly, the very light pressure. If I push a brush too hard, you'll see it does that. So I'm not doing that. I'm putting a very light pressure down like this, and just allowing that raw sienna to mix and with that white, and just leave these little scaggy marks like that. So you just got to hit the colour. If you haven't got raw sienna, use a little bit of yellow ochre, and you can add a little bit of burnt umber to that if you want. If you've got your burnt umber or any brown, really, you just want a red. You want a brown on the red side. That's all this is a brown on the red side, not a red on the brown side. No, it could be depending where you live. Okay, so let's just add in a little bit more colour like this. Just flick the brush like that. It's quite easy. Just don't try to do it. Allow the brush to work for you. Now over there it's just a little bit drier, so just a little bit of mist, and that's just going to allow that paint to mix like that. Don't overload this brush, but on the other hand, you don't want to put too little on the brush. So if you feel it's running out of paint, then just add a little bit more colour here and there. Put a little bit more dark around the head area there, like that. We'll be working on that in just a second. There we go. And you can strengthen areas of this up as you feel fit. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. You just want to, just a flick like that. Just a flick like that. And just to blend that in. There you go. Very, very lightly. Very, very lightly. Let's get a little bit of burnt umber. And same on the same brush. Bit of burnt umber right on the edge. Pushing that brush into the paint like that. Getting a nice sharp edge. Get a nice sharp edge on your brush. Can you see how sharp that edge is? Now, starting there, let's just put a little rail. It doesn't have to be dead straight. Don't worry too much about accuracy. We don't worry about accuracy too much in our studio today, or ever, in fact, because we want to limit stress, and painting is a way of eliminating stress, especially in Wales. It is. And then we just pull up like that, which is not easy sitting on an angle, as you know. I'm just trying to get that nice straight edge like that. A straighty wonky doesn't matter. We don't stand on ceremony, as I've said in the studio. This is just an idea. I'm just showing you a way to paint. These are just tutorials at the end of the day. What you do made that a bit bigger. What you do with these paintings afterwards is entirely up to you. It certainly is. I'm just showing you a way to paint. Now let's get a bit more dark just underneath there. Just to put a bit of a shadow in. There we go. Taking the excess off my brush. All I did was wipe the brush in some tissue paper, and I'm going above that line. I'm just going to pull down like this to make it look like a bit of a rail. She's leaning on a bit of a rail. There we are. Doesn't really matter if it's the same size. I don't mind. I'm here to paint away the stress. But don't forget, if you like what you see, please comment. Please share. It's important you share my videos on your social media. Media. It's not easy for me to say. Social media pages like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that. Because why? Because it helps me grow. And the more I grow, the more subscribers I get. And if you watch those ads at the beginning or in the middle, then you're helping me automatically by allowing me to have just a little bit of revenue from these videos. And that, on its own, allows me to come into the studio and paint these lessons for you. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to share my passion, which is art, with yourselves. So please comment, share, subscribe, and do all those wonderful things that you can do for me. I really do appreciate that. Now we're going to let that dry a little bit. Now what I would normally do in this situation is get the hairdryer on that, but I'm not going to this time. I'm just going to use my mark stick, and this is a stick with a cork on the end. And we had some sparkling wine for Christmas, so I managed to save a few corks. So you get a stick and put a cork on the end like that. I'm going to go into my little filbert brush, and I'm going to pick up a bit of raw sienna, and I'm just going to get straight into neat paint. This is a little bit transparent. Raw sienna is a little bit transparent. If you find it's too transparent, then get a bit of raw sienna, get a bit of burnt umber, mix a bit of burnt umber and a bit of raw sienna together. There we go. What that's going to do is it's just going to make it less transparent. But we're not worried too much about that, because we want a little bit of a light area there. And this is her hair. This is her hair, it certainly is. So we'll just get that in place like that, and then let's just put a little bit more light just on her bun, because she's got a bun on the back of her hair. They call them buns. Well, they do in don't know what they call them in America and other places around the world, but in the UK we call them buns. There we go. And we're just going to darken that up, just using a bit of burnt umber now. Just darken that up like this. just merge that in together. Be loose, be free. Be loose and free. And just play around with this. Now I don't know if any of you actually done ballet. I haven't. I used to be a Welsh folk dancer. Yes, I used to run round with handkerchiefs and bells on my wrists and my hands, on my ankles. I used to be a Welsh folk dancer. Yes, I did. When I was in school, and we actually came first in the Eisteddfod. I can't remember what year that was actually, but yes, I can dance. Well, I used to be able to, not so much now. I can just about get up off the floor sometimes when I'm kneeling down. I'm going to get a bit of black, and I like a bit of black just to darken that one edge off there, just to give it a little bit of dimension, because that's going to be a little bit thicker, that bob. Bob is not a bob. It's not a bob. What do I call it? A bun. Yeah, just put a little bit of black in there like that. Just get a bit more light, and then just, there we go. What we can do, we can come back to that in 1 second. Okay, so I'm putting that brush in the water. I'm picking up another short flat. I've got several of these brushes, these size brushes on the go, and I'm going to go straight into some raw sienna and a touch of white. Raw sienna with a touch of white. There you go. Our white is going to make that a little bit more opaque, but it's going to have that lovely tinge of colour that I'm looking for. So we need to put her skin in place, and this is a nice, it's a nice base for a skin tone. This is a nice base for a skin tone colour. So we're just going to concentrate on just putting the block out in at the moment. Now I've done a couple of paintings with women in, or images of women in, so if you want to click on the iCards by there, that's going to take you in to some of those lessons if you like this type of thing. And it's a bit of fun. It is. It's a nice bit of fun, and you'll learn a lot as well. You can learn a lot from this. All we're doing at the moment is just blocking out some colour. There we go. And don't forget that there's an arm there, so we can put that in place. Now before we make a mistake, because what's going to happen is inevitably when we're going to get down there, we're going to forget what that is. So let's just get a little bit of burnt umber just on the tip of that brush. Burnt umber on the tip of that brush, and then just put in just that little bit of a shadow mark like this, just on that arm, so we know that is an arm. Because you'd be surprised how many times I've made that mistake. And we can concentrate on the rest of it. So a little bit of moisture, not much. And I'm not worried about covering all the canvas up. You've got little bits of canvas showing there, and that can work to your advantage, because what you can do is you can use that for your highlighting colour, because we're going to be putting some shadows into this shortly. And if you're just starting out, painting, it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be 10 years old or younger, or you could be 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or even older. So I got some students that have just started painting when they were 80. I really have. My mother was one of them. She's started taking up painting properly when she was late 70s, early 80s, and she's done some wonderful works of art. And it just takes time. It just takes time. You've got to know how the paint works. Make friends with your paint. Make friends with your paintbrush. Yes, this is your friend. Make friends with her. Just sit there sometimes and just draw patterns on a bit of paper or on a canvas. You've got a spare canvas. Just use some patterns there, and you get to know what these brushes can do, what shapes they can make, and the effects that you can get from them. So straight into some. You notice I don't wash my brushes very often, because I'm using the same tones of colour. I'm just going from light to dark. So that doesn't matter, because we're mixing these colours together. And I'm just going to get some kitchen roll into my hand, because I want to take some paint off. You know, I always take a little bit of paint off my brush like that. And that just helps with what I'm going to do now, is put some shadowing marks in. So I want to follow this neck down. And I'm just going to increase this tone of colour like that. I can hear my little cat Boo meowing outside my studio today, and she hasn't done that for quite a long time, and I know what that is because she's cold and it's a bit frosty out there this morning, and we just put in some tone of colour in like this, just dry brushing this brush. It's a very, very light pressure of brush again. You don't want to press too hard, just very light. Practice this. Just practice this colour. This brush stroke, I should say, not colour. Just practice that. There you go. We've got her hand, haven't we? Let's go back into a little bit of that lighter colour and just put her fingers in. That's her thumb. That's come in there. And that's her fingers. And these are just representational marks. Because what you've got to do, what you've got to remember is a lot of these paintings, in fact most of them, are going to be viewed from a distance. So sit back sometimes, or stand back, or go to the other side of the room and look at your painting and allow it to dry. As also, it's important that you allow your painting to dry, because I don't know if you know, and not many people do, I don't know if you know, and not many people do, that acrylic paint dries up to 2 shades darker. It does. That way your painting is going to change completely to what it is when you're painting it. When I come back to this in a couple of minutes, it's going to be slightly different. It's going to look different. I just picked up a little bit of white on my brush. I'm just going to flick in a little bit of light colour like this. I want to thank all the people that have asked me to do requests and things like that, and it's important. Don't be afraid to ask. When I got time, I will certainly try and get to them. I can't get to everyone. I try to, but it's inevitable that I can't do everything that I'm asked to do, because I get so many fantastic requests from you. But I do consider every single one, and if I can possibly do it, then I will. So I'm just adding a little bit of highlight now, just on the shoulder. There you go. I'm just bringing that down a touch like that, and we'll come back in to this in a second, and then we can merge that together a little bit better. There you go. So a decision now. We've got to make a decision. I've got to decide what colour this lady's dress is going to be. Now, I was asked if I could do a red one, so we'll certainly try that. So I've got a little bit of mid-range, which is a medium red. It can be a cadmium red or any other red you've got. It's just a medium red. You've got different brightnesses. You've got a more yellow look to one, and a darker, more crimsony look to another. So this is something in the middle. But if you've already got a dark red, add a little bit of yellow to it. That's all you need to do. There we go. So we're going to have pink. I think pink is a nice colour. So we're just adding a little bit of white to that little bit of red. And then we're just going to bring that pink down like this. I'm just placing that in. Using the brush, using the edge of the brush. There you go. Finding the shape of this lady's waist. Bringing a bit of this colour in. There we are. Even a bit of white showing through, because we've got to darken sections is up in a second. Let's get a little bit more red now into this. A little bit of fluid. I'm not using a lot of moisture on my brushes today. Oops, I'm not using a lot of moisture on my brushes today. I'm just going to bring this tutu. It's called a tutu, I think. I think it is. Bring that tutu in like this. Bit more red. Let's get a little bit more red down. Don't forget, this is all like folds fabric. These are all folds. of fabric. There we go. We've got some more landscapes coming out in my lessons this year, and I'm hoping I'll do a couple of more intermediate lessons as well this year, so we're going to step it up a little bit. But I'm only limited to certain lengths of time. I try to keep my paintings within an hour, so I'm quite limited, but I'm working on a few different ways to do that, and we'll see what we can come up with for you, certainly. I'm just bringing a few shapes like this. There you go. Let's go in a bit more darker red there. Get a nice red 2-to-1. Let me bring a bit more colour into that in just a second. And just loosely fit in. Don't think about folds. It's like painting trees and clouds and stuff like that. The more you think about it, the harder it is going to get for you. So just think and be free. Get a rough idea. Say, well, I think there's going to be a fold there, so just throw in a fold like that, and you've got another one maybe coming down there, and just let the brush work for you. So all you've got to do is let that brush work for you. And it's important that we get the block out done first anyway. Let's pick up a little bit more red. Bit of moisture, not too much. Let's just get rid of some of this white that's showing through the canvas. There you go. And just continue to build that up. You can see, let the painting develop on its own. It'll tell you what it wants. No, well, that sounds strange, doesn't it? It'll tell you what it wants. I'm just going to put that brush in the pot a second, and picking up another little filbert brush. There we go. We want to get a bit of red now. And just bring this red in. Let's put a nice dark. Let's get some bright red. Let's really make that stand out. There we go. Mix that in. A bit of pink. Mix those colours on your brush. A little bit of white now. Let's get a little bit of highlight coming in. Just blend these colours together. Blend them together. Let's get a bit more white. Let's look at our highlights now. Maybe pick up a. Let's make a brighter pink, and just pick up a bit of light, just zinging across that area there. And let's get a bit of red, and let's just darken this strap up there. And then we can darken this strap up a touch. Just get a bit of light. Flowing through this dress. Just picking up a few highlights like that. Very loose. There's a slightly thinner paint now. Just to pick up some highlights on this dress, because it's like a net, like a I don't know what these dresses are made of, but I would imagine they're quite like net curtains. I don't know. I might be wrong. Who knows? But it doesn't matter, does it? As long as we know roughly what something looks like. You know this is a ballet dancer, and in your mind, that's exactly what it's going to be. It certainly is. So we're going back now into our body, and we're just going to thin down a bit of that raw sienna, and we're going to lightly wash over a very thin coat of raw sienna. Just get it. This is transparent. You remember what I said, this is transparent, so we just want to darken up, strengthen up that colour. Don't worry about going over the white area that we can put in. We can just re-establish that in just 1 second. We just want to darken that area up a touch, like that. Get a little bit of white again, and just increase. Just same brush, just increase a little bit of light. Just on this ballet dancer who is just sitting there or standing there contemplating and thinking about her next performance and thinking about how she's going to do in that lesson or that show or whatever it's going to be. There you go. And we just need to strengthen up a couple of areas now. And if you like what you've seen, then please like, comment, share and subscribe. That's very, very important that you do that, because as I said, I can grow then, and if you can watch a couple of the adverts, that's even better for me as well. And I really do appreciate it. Pop along to www.clive5art.co.uk, where you can have a look at my shop, and if there's any items in there, and I ship worldwide. And I ship a lot to America, so no problems with there. And please do that, and just continue to tighten this up. And if you haven't clicked that subscribe button, then please do that. There's a little me down there with my thumb up there. If you click on that, that's going to subscribe you and take you through to my main channel. And I've got over 500 videos there of lessons, all free to watch. And I'm also supported by Patreon. Patreon is a site where you can go along and you can support me for as little as $1 a month, and that is, and there's a few perks in there, and I do some extra things, and there's master classes and all these other free perks in there. And if you want to pop along there and support me in that way, I really would appreciate that also. So all it remains me to do today is say thank you very much for joining me in the studio. And for a good day, a good week, a good month, a good year, because I don't know when you're going to see this, as time is relative on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining me here and painting away the stress of everyday life with me in Wales. So until next time, thank you very much, and I'll see you then. Nice.